Okay, we got all the .1 notes, for major changes, class changes, tier sets, announced and everything. So good time to go over it. They did some pretty interesting things. I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. Not that there's not still some relatively large problems, but still, I like the changes so far. Anyway, these things don't really matter. Mass Barrier, this just kind of helps with Arcane, and then this is good for PvP. But anyway, this was kind of controversial. They just reworked Frostfire, and it really didn't need a rework. We weren't focusing too much on actually tracking the auras. You were kind of just playing the class and seeing what happened. And they made this kind of unintuitive. Before it was literally, frost spells stack, frost mastery, and then you get excess frost, and fire spells stack, blah, blah, blah. And now they're making it so excess fire triggers when you cast Meteor or Comet Storm, and then consuming excess fire gives you excess frost, and then that can stack twice. Okay? It's just kind of weird. It feels like if they're going to make, first of all, if they're going to make one of these stack twice, they should make both of them stack twice, right? Because especially for frost, you're doing your kind of cold combo. Now you have to interrupt it to Ice Lance so you don't lose or munch your excess fire before you Comet Storm again, which is really awkward. And I just think this is less intuitive than it was before, but sure, we'll probably script things. It's also excess fire triggering from when you cast Meteor or Comet Storm. With Firefall, the way this has historically worked is it does work with the Meteor thing. Maybe it won't, because I don't know if their Living Bomb talent works with it. But obviously Isothermic Core triggers a Comet Storm when your Firefall happens, so that could be really weird. So this is kind of a strange change. I don't know why they did this. This was probably the most useless change in the world. This only matters if you're leveling, because you have all the talents when you get to max level. So I don't know why they would ever spend time changing the talent locations of a hero talent tree, but sure. And then some bug fixes, and then we're down to the specs. So this is funny, because their primary goal is to simplify a number of variables someone has to consider when you cast the Arcane Barrage. Aether Vision is the biggest culprit to this. It is the number one thing that is convoluted Arcane Barrage casts, and that was just something that they added to a problem that didn't really exist. So yeah, they fixed Enlighten. Now it just scales linearly, probably, I'm assuming linearly, instead of you losing all of your effect when you go below 70% mana. So this just means you get a little bit less value in your burst, and that's fine. This doesn't really matter, I don't think. We weren't really barraging around it. I mean, as Sun Fury, yes, but it's not the deterministic factor. That's actually just, all the other random buffs. This doesn't matter, but they changed some weird positions, right? They moved Arcane Cleave to a position where you have to take it. There's, no way to actually progress on the tree without it, which is strange, On one hand, it's good to have forced AoE because you don't lose single target to take it. But on the other hand, it would have just been better to have Aether Vision there, because then you could choose to instead talent into Arcane Cleave later on. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And they also made Amplification Reverberate a choice now. This doesn't matter. You're never going to take Reverberate or Arcane Explosion if it doesn't consume Nether Precision, because then it doesn't generate Splinters. It doesn't work with Arcane Harmony, and it does not generate Orbs for Sun Fury, so it's just a dead talent, or ability. And then we have this choice node, which also doesn't really matter. In AoE, you're definitely taking Arcane Tempo, probably in single target as well. Big Brain, you're never going to feel this. And Arcane Tempos, sure, it's good. They made Consortium's Bobble over here. This is relatively strong, I think. So, sure, you'll just take it. It feels like the changes they did to the tree did literally nothing, because they didn't change anything about the third gate or anything. So just maybe your path is going to be slightly weirder, but you're still, you're not going to take precedence in mind, right? You're just still going to go down and keep doing what you're doing, right? So, yeah. Maybe you do this, you still have to take Energized Familiar, and you take like that, and then, you're doing the exact same thing with the exact same talents you had before, so weird. But yeah. Then they changed Burden of Power for the sixth time, so now it benefits Arcane Barrage again, and Glorious Incandescence isn't a buff, but it triggers when you consume Burden of Power, which is what makes the most sense. So yeah, there's heavily incentivizing that you consume burn power with Barrage, which is kind of awkward depending on how this works with spell queuing, which we don't know, and I doubt the developer really put that much intention into it. Who knows? We'll see how that works when PTR goes live. They're just talking about how Fire has way too many instant casts, which is definitely true. It's just kind of spamming instant cast, never cast Fireball or anything. A bit silly. But yeah, this is pretty funny. Right? Instant cast Scorch are another contributing factor to Fire's resource overflow. Scorch has a cast time of the GCD. If it's instant cast, that just means the GCD happens after you cast the spell, but you still have the same amount of time until you can cast another spell. So this is kind of weird. That doesn't do anything. All they did was they just buffed it by giving it 10% increased damage and making it so you can also, do a double Pyroblast after it, because it's not an instant cast anymore. So you have the cast time to Fire Blast during it and then Pyroblast. And it doesn't do anything. I mean, it just gives you one heat up. It was definitely not contributing to its resource overflow. If anything, maybe you'll actually use it because you can keep up Field of Burn when doing it now, whereas before you couldn't really. But yeah, they buffed Pyrotechnics by double, which is kind of wild, because now it only takes 5 fireballs to get 100% crit chance if you don't crit, versus it was 10. So that's seems insane. Bad for your stacking crit chance build that you played in like Dragonflight. But yeah, this doesn't really matter. Control Destruction is a horrible talent because it requires you to target swap. It's very annoying on, say, Court, where you need a pre-stack on one of the other bosses in advance, and it just takes a really long time. So yeah, not a fan. But okay, they're trying to buff Fireball's damage outside Combust for some reason, make it more satisfying to press, I suppose. And then you lose the charge of Phoenix Flames, but you get increased Phoenix Flames damage, which is honestly probably better for UI because you weren't really spamming a bunch of Phoenix Flames inside your combustion generally, and so doing more damage just means that it's better for UI, where you can focus more of your resource generation on fire blasting and everything, and using your other procs, and then still get really high value from your Phoenix Flames damage. They increased Fire Blast cooldown, but this is kind of, for Sunfairy at least, entirely counteracted by the fact that they doubled the Glorious Incandescence returns. So now it's 8 seconds of CDR every time you proc Glorious Incandescence, which is very strong. Reduced Hyperthermia duration by 1 second. I mean, if this doesn't apply to your soul, it doesn't really matter, probably. Buff Fire Blast damage, buff Flame Strike damage, which is very good for Sun King's Blessing, but you also have reduced generation because they increased the cooldown on Fire Blast and you lost a Phoenix Flames charge, so that's probably why. But Fireball seems like it's going to be better resource generation now anyway, so they nerfed the mana cost, which is probably good. Maybe we won't get Ooh anymore, I don't know, I haven't seen Sims. They made Phoenix Reborn refund only 1 charge, which is fine, and then doubled damage bonus, so it's functionally different. If anything, this is stronger because you don't need to spend as much time casting Phoenix Flames. I mean, you get less heat ups, but I don't think that'll matter too much, so yeah. And then nothing else. So Frost had a lot of stuff happen to it, actually. They just kind of gutted Freezing Winds, right? They just made it give this bland bonus, where now Frozen Orb just deals more damage to units who are in your Blizzard, which is relatively boring and actually presents a pretty large problem to Frost's talent tree, in that in order for us to get Coldest Snap, we need to get Freezing Winds. But a lot of the time when you want Coldest Snap, say, and if you're looking at this raid tier, you're on like Rashinan, it's like, hey, I have Freezing Winds because it's single target, because it gives me Finished Frost, and I want to do some AoE on those little pad ads, and I'll just take Cold Snap, so whenever they're out, I can just kind of cold them and just do decent AoE damage, and they give me some funnel and stuff. That's great. That feels good, right? You just invest 1 talent into that, and you got all you need. Now you have to take this useless talent for anything that isn't full sustain AoE in order to get your burst AoE thing, which you would take on a lot of raid fights. This talent is functionally useless outside of full AoE, right? If I'm not in sustained 5-target AoE with all the other Blizzard talents, I don't want this talent, because I don't want to cast Blizzard, and I'm not going to cast Blizzard. So it just feels bad that there's no way to path around it to get Coldest Snap, and I would like them to fix that. And whether they want to go for this or not, I think the later changes show they don't. If you can path around this, that more enables, no Blizzard builds that spam fucking Frostbolt so they can get Cold Front out, which is not, a bad option. It's just for them, they'd be taking Freezing Winds most of the time in the current iteration, or give you Smeared Frost, which they wouldn't use. So anyway, definitely very much want to path around Freezing Winds to get Cold Snap, and also I would like them to change this because this is very boring. So probably a pretty decent talent though in actual AoE. Just incredibly boring, and heavily limits our talent variety in raid. But yeah, this was kind of weird that they said they wanted to put more power into Fierce Frost, and they didn't really. They just made it so Iceland's Fierce Frost can no longer consume Where's Chill, which is good for sure, but that doesn't put more power into them really. It just gives you a lot more consistent access to icicles and things. It does make, however, other sources of proccing Freezing Winds or Fierce Frost better. So like Ray of Frost, normally you would Ray of Frost on like one Where's Chill, and then probably not even get that Ice Lance into the Where's Chill, and now you can do it too and maybe spam Ice Lance like 3 times. But the thing that this ignores is that Freezing Winds is not the only way you generate Fierce Frost from Orb. It was just the only guaranteed way. Well, that's not true. You get a guaranteed one whenever you cast Frozen Orb and it first hits an enemy. It gives you a Fierce Frost, and then it just randomly has a chance to give you Fierce Frost from its taking damage. So with Freezing Winds, we had 3 different sources of Fierce Frost from Frozen Orb, and now we still have 2. Right? There's just one guaranteed one where you get one at the start of Orb when it hits an enemy, and then just an RNG one when it's ticking. And the main point of concern here is what hero talent do you know that spams orbs out, right? It's Spellslinger, sending out 50 orbs in single target in 5 minutes. And so Spellslinger is going to have way more consistent access to Fierce Frost than Frostfire will. And because of that, it's just going to probably do a lot more damage still, because it's just going to be spamming Ice Lances, and what Frostfire is going to be depressing is Frostfire Bolt. Which isn't a bad spell, especially if you take all the talents for it. Not that Satisfy Depress or anything, but yeah, that's probably gonna, if they ever try to buff Fierce Frost, that's gonna be a massive talent disparity. Then they did these weird buffs to Blizzard, 100% damage increase, very significant, 50% radius increase, nice, would have been better if it was even larger, really. And then they increased this duration. It's kind of strange, which we'll talk about in a second. And they said, we're interested in increasing Blizzard's usability so it remains a compelling option when Frost Mages are in area of effect scenarios without requiring too much cognitive load. Okay. I mean, I don't really get what they mean by this. The reason we don't use Blizzard in AoE is because in order for it to be good, we have to take all the Blizzard talents. So you just don't press Blizzard because you don't have all the Blizzard talents, and it's not worth to take it because it just doesn't do enough. And even now, I mean, maybe it will do enough, but you're still not going to take the Blizzard talents probably in AoE. The difference is, Cold Snap is such a high concentration of damage in a very short period, and it's a massive amount of damage. If you look at your AoE profile, it's like the big peaks are all your kind of cold combo. So if we were going to invest points into anything, and in this case, right, we would need to invest, if we wanted to invest 2 points to do AoE, for instance, I can invest Ice Collar and like Freezing Rain. Okay, Blizzard does damage, great. Or I could do Freezing Winds and Cold Snap, and I could maybe cast 1 Blizzard for Freezing Winds, and then my Cold Snap is just going to hard carry me because it just does an insane amount of damage. So like you're just, I don't know. I mean, sure, maybe we'll cast Blizzard once on like say the Parasites and Brute Twister, where now if you didn't have Blizzard talents, you wouldn't cast it at all. But it's very silly. Without the cognitive load, there's effectively saying if you don't want to press Cone of Cold, press Blizzard or something. I don't get it, but that's okay. The other weird thing is right now, the way Blizzard works is its cooldown and its duration are the same, and its cooldown is hasted, so its duration is also hasted, but it gets the same ticks. So let's say you have an 8-second Blizzard, right? Duration has an 8-second cooldown. You get 20% haste, it goes down to 7 seconds. and then you have a 7-second cooldown and a 7-second duration. And it scales the tick rate up to account for that, so you get the same amount of cooldown reduction regardless of the duration blizzard you have. Now, since they didn't mention its cooldown, you can have multiple blizzards out at the same time without shifting power, and that'll just be always. And then, since it lasts longer, you're probably going to be potentially more concerned with how you're affecting its tick rate by increasing your haste or anything. So we'll see if that affects things, because currently playing around your tick rate doesn't matter really. So this isn't going to change its priority at all, because we're already casting on cooldown. So yeah, interesting. This is a pretty big change. They made Ice Lances empowered by Fingers Frost no longer consume Winter's Chill, which is, that's okay. It's nice, I suppose. It'll be kind of awkward to adjust to, right? And again, it'll be stronger for, say, Spellslinger than it will be for Frostfire, because you're getting way more consistent access to Fingers Frost as Spellslinger. And so you could Frostbolt into Flurry. Great, you have 2 Icicles, and then you just Ice Lance, Orb, Ice Lance, Glacial Spike or something, and then consume Winter's Chill, because your Fingers Frost didn't consume the Winter's Chill from the Flurry, which is going to be really weird. But you also might not have the Winter's Chill duration for that. Because of this thing, you're going to be casting, a significant amount of Ice Lances that can't consume Winter's Chill. They should probably increase the duration from 6 seconds, because you're already struggling to get spells in. Like if I Comet Storm, Ice Lance, Ray, I'm not consuming that second Winter's Chill. So it definitely needs a duration increase to accompany this. Those don't matter. And then Spellslinger, they made you can consume Winter's Chill or Fingers Frost to generate the Spellslinger rather than just Winter's Chill. Wonderful change. We probably won't spam Frostbolt as much, and it needed to happen with what they just did above. So that's good. Wonderful. And then they nerf Splintering Orbs and nerf damage of Splinters. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. We'll be balanced around in 0.1 anyway, so I don't mind. I wish they would have nerfed Splintering Orbs more, actually. Because Splintering Orbs is, the main reason. Splintering Orbs and Spellfrost Teachings kind of combined are the main reasons we have so much variance in our spec. So nerf it more, because right now there's no, I don't think there's any bad luck protection, so you'll Orb, and it gives you a significantly higher chance to get another Orb reset from Spellfrost Teachings, and then you do it again, and then it gives you again another much higher chance to reset, and then that just cascades, and you have these, really high peaks and really low lows where you just get a bunch of procs or you get none, and I'm not a fan of that. But anyway, they just have the nerf to the splinter damage. It's whatever. They were obviously doing a massive amount of damage, 40%. So it's a bit silly. Though, funnily enough, this actually makes Blizzard worse, because right now Blizzard makes your splinters cleave, and one of the reasons to cast it if you don't have any talents is to make your splinters cleave when they do 40% of your damage. But nerfing it makes that a little bit worse. So anyway, yeah. It will be weird though with this change where Ice Lance is empowered by Fingers Frost, no longer consume Winter's Chill. Seems kind of half baked because we still have Wintertide on. Oh, never mind. They already changed the talent thing. This used to require. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe they didn't change the thing. Ice. This is the same. Maybe the wording seems different. By the way, if you double up on frozen effects. So if you Ice Lance into a Winter's Chill target, it just does more damage. And that's what Wintertide does, which made sense when you had to munch them. And it doesn't make sense now, because since it doesn't consume Winter's Chill, what you would want to do is bank as many Fingers of Frost as possible, and then Flurry, and then spend all of them to get 20% increased damage, which would be cringe, to say the least, to not Fingers of Frost unless you can use them into Winter's Chill. So hopefully they change this talent, and it's very sad that they did not, because that's very silly interaction to have. Pretty overlooked. But yeah. Anyway, on to our tier sets. So the way they did tier sets in 0.1 is every role has a very similar baseline effect. So for instance, for DPS, it's you just get a buff when you cast a spell randomly that does something specific to your spec. And for Arcane, for instance, you do clear casting and 8% increased spell damage for 12 seconds, and when you cast Touch of Magi, you always get it. This is an amazing 2-set. It wouldn't surprise me if this is one of the best 2-sets, because you just always get it when you touch the Magi. The fact that it's a small chance doesn't really matter, because we only really care about it inside our cooldowns. And casting Touch of Magi means we'll always get it every 45 seconds. So we always have an 8% increased damage in our cooldown and an extra clear casting, which gives us 3 clear castings for Surge, because Evocate gives you 1, Arcane Surge gives you 1, and now Touch of Magi gives you 1, which is ridiculous. And then you also have 1 guaranteed for your mini burn, which prevents any RNG of you not triggering like your Magi Spark from not having a clear cast to cast Arcane Missiles. So that's nice. And then the Foresight is when you get Jackpot, you also get Aether Attunement. This is great. Aether Attunement is a very feels good thing to use as Arcane, probably one of the best things to cast in the game at the moment. And they removed a lot of the RNG and that you're always going to have it on your cooldowns. So that's going to feel amazing, in my opinion. While this has some negative effect in that if you already have Aether Attunement, when it procs, it's just going to munch it, which is really bad. You actually can have Aether Attunement and the build-up to Aether Attunement at the same time. It's primarily a thing in Dragonflight when we were using Arcane Explosion. We don't now because of poor design. But let's say you're at like 1 or 2 clear casting used, right, on the build-up to your Aether Attunement. You can proc Jackpot and have Aether Attunement and still have those 2 build up, and then you can use the Aether Attunement and then get another Aether Attunement from using that, and then that'll be way more common because right now we just don't cast Arcane Explosion, so that just can't happen. But it will be able to happen here, and I think that's gonna feel really good. It's just if you munch it and it procs when you already have Aether Attunement, it's gonna feel really bad. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could do something to fix that. This is really silly in my opinion. They made Fire, when you proc it, you get cooldown reduction on Combustion. And, now Fire has CDR from Kindling, has CDR from Unleashed Inferno, and it has CDR from this. Like a 30-second Combust cooldown. I don't know why they would do that. That's a bit strange. And then they just give you a generic damage amp that's, double duration when you actually combust. So, yeah. Interesting. This generally should not work with SKB casting spell. Things don't generally work with SKB, so it won't be a way to get way higher damage amp increase. So Frost has probably the worst tier set bonus I've ever seen in my life, generally speaking. In that, your spells just have a chance to fire Frostbolt Volley, which deals damage to 9 targets, and casting Icy Veins does it, and then does it again for 3 more times, which, when you look at this and then you look at everything else, it's like very strange. It seems like half of the set bonus that everyone else got, right? Because this is only AoE focused. It does literally nothing in single target. Like it'll hit 1 target with a Frostbolt Volley, but there's no extra effect to make up for the fact that you're not hitting 9 enemies instead, right? So very strange. It seems like it could be incredibly weak in single target, but maybe the primary target damage is just insane. Who knows? But yeah, how this could interact with our talents and stuff. It's a Frostbolt Volley. Whether or not that works with our Frostbolt talents is probably going to make or break it. Personally, I'm pro at working with our Frostbolt talents because it means we don't have to care about them anymore. We just take them. And what I mean by that is casting Frostbolt objectively sucks. It's not a good spell compared to Ice Lance, damage-wise and everything. It's just all the additional interactions it has through the talent tree, through our hero talents, can make up for that. But let's say you just cast Ice Lance anyway and randomly proc Frostbolt, and that, those 9 targets it hits gives you Cold Front stacks, and it gives you Death Chill stacks. Then you can just take these talents, but you don't have to Frostbolt, because the random tier set thing is just going to Frostbolt for you and proc all this. So, yeah. That would be good. I would like that. If it doesn't interact with any of your Frostbolt talents, then why does it exist? It just doesn't do anything. It's like you just have this and you just fully ignore it. It would interact with nothing in our kit. We would do nothing about this. It's every 10 seconds. It's not going to refresh Frostfire Bolt's dot if it does proc it. It's not like this is something that we're going to shatter with Winter's Chill from Arcana Cold, and it's going to do insane damage, right? So, sure, you'll probably do that when Icy Veins happens, but it'll be incidental. So I hope this works with Frostbolt talents, and then you'll just talent them and then forget they exist because it'll take care of it. It does make our third gate pretty awkward, right? You just, like, look at this, you know, I start taking all these talents and suddenly I can't get Freezing Rain, I can't get Coldest Snap, I can't take also Glacial Spike, so yeah, ideally we would have had our, you know, third gate shuffled around a bit because don't really want to take this. And also Hailstones is a required talent, and Splain Ice also required, right? So talent tree's still in a bit of shambles, but you know, maybe 11.2. So here's our model as well for our tier set. I think it looks pretty nice. Definitely they kind of ignored Arcane though, right? This is fire themed, this is frost themed, this is fire themed, this is frost themed. Then we got purple, but this is kind of ugly with the colors they chose, in my opinion. And we got bright green. So yeah, it's a pretty cool tier set. I'm actually pretty excited to get this model, but I'm a Frost Mage main, so yeah, not surprising probably. I just think this looks very good. Reminds me a lot of the Dragonflight Season 1 Shaman set, which was, you know, kind of rock elemental themed, and I think that looked amazing. I think this looks even better. So we'll see how it looks on some other models. But yeah, wonderful. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I will make, you know, some more guides in 0.1. Kind of, I reworked too many things, and in 0.0 I just did not want to make, like, you know, 7 guides, even though it would have made sense fiscally to do that. So you'll get a Frostfire Frost guide in 0.1, just not before then, right? And we'll see how the tuning shakes out for this. And I would ideally like some additional changes to, you know, Frost, the setup of its talent tree, addressing like Wintertide. And I'm relatively happy with other specs, but, you know, because they don't seem like they're going to address Aether Vision, even though I think it makes Arcane very convoluted. Like, I am not going to play Arcane without an Arcane Barrage Weak Aura, because Aether Attunement, the way it works, is so silly. It's requires far more tracking than, you know, a double dipping version of Arcane Barrage ever did. It's very unintuitive in my opinion, but whatever. That's what they wanted. It kind of seems like Porum is a little checked out though, so we might be experiencing a bit of a horror version of the priority next season when he decides to show the developers what, you know, their math has really done to us. But, you know, we'll see. And then fire, I did not like. You were just spamming Dancing Castle all the time, so this is good for me. But I mean, we'll see. As long as you don't feel super dry, it should be nice. And then frost, I mean, we'll have to see. I think this is gonna make Spellslinger feel a lot better for me, to be honest. I think Spellslinger is still just gonna have permanent Freedom to Frost, and then Frostfire is just left to rot in AoE especially. And we'll have to see how that evolves. It might just be everyone's going to want to play Spellslinger so you can actually cast Ice Lance, and then all the Frostfire people are just sitting over there like, what have they done to my spec? But yeah, that's alright. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below, and you'll see more content from me around WoW as the season ramps up, I guess, and once it actually gets out and I do M+ again. So until then, generally streaming, you know, my raid every Friday. Not that anyone's too excited about farm these days, but yeah, they're definitely doing a lot of interesting things in 0.1. Lots to look forward to. So have a good rest of your day.